Time to tag you. I'm going to tag you. Time to tag you. Time to tag you. Another episode of Tag Time.
It was my wedding day and I was not ready, not mentally, not anyway. If only I could have run away, but I couldn't. So I took a deep breath, stepped forward to face my new life. We had to get away, far away from the menacing darkness, to a new land of promise. As I packed, there it lay, the diary of secrets. I didn't want to carry the past with me, yet if I left it behind, she would be lost forever.
Welcome to Tech Time. I'm your host, Halima Sadia. It's time to tag you another episode of Tech Time. Today, I have with me a very, very accomplished artist. She is a writer, but artist is the right word for her because art in different forms is engraved in her. With a doctorate in political science, she has served with the Office of Regional Government of Peel from 2005 to 2012, and she is a public service artist and has been a classical dancer, a theatre actor, painter and a poet. So when I say that I have an artist, she has all the different dimension of art in her, and this is her latest venture, which is really very interesting. She has written a novel, Peacock in the Snow. We will be talking to our guest today, and her name is Anubha Mehta. Now I will walk her in. Anubha, how are you?
Hi, Halima. I'm good. How are you, Helena?
Good. So Anubha, when we talk about Peacock in the Snow, it's your latest venture which you have done. So what would you like to share about that aspect of your life, which is writing, to the audience?
I think writing is something I've been doing since childhood. I think a lot of us just write. But I think putting something together in a way that got picked up by a publisher is something that I've done for the first time. And it takes a lot of time, effort, energy. I won't deny that.
And a lot of skilling too, I mean.
Well, yeah, drafts and redrafts, it's a lot of work. It takes a few years to get one big novel out.
So what would you like to comment about the different aspect of a novel? Well, we were discussing about the crafting, we were discussing about the plot. So how you actually compiled this bright novel?
Peacock in the Snow is something that was very unintentional. I did not have a plot, I did not have an idea of it. It was all these stories inside me for years that I've traveled and lived all over the globe, as well as worked and met all these different individuals. They were in me and I just started writing randomly. And Peacock in the Snow became an outcome of that. So when I was writing about all these people and their stories and their paths and my journey and how I met different people. And after I'd written it, then I looked at it, not before. Let me see if there is a storyline here. And that's how I discovered it, that yes, there may be something here. So I started sending it for feedback, and that's when people started saying, yes, I think you should develop it further.
So for a novel or a writing, how much the time matters, the time period, the context of the time? As you said that they were in you for a long time. So how would you connect it to the universal concept of the time, or to the context of the time we are living in?
I think everything that we imbibe as human beings goes into our subconscious. So from the time that we are born, first 4 years, our human brain is one of the most remarkable organs that I don't think any research has been able to decipher till now. Every input, every sensation, smell, touch, feel keeps going in till you're ready. And when it comes out, like for example, the novel, when it came out to me, all the influences that I've had over my life came out contextually. So in today, relevant to what's happening around me through that filter, adapting my past to my present. So yes, there are pieces in the past, but when I wrote them down, they're very relevant to our today's scenario, our people, our society.
So how do you see this book as a contribution to literature, contemporary literature, especially when we talk about South Asian, particularly artists who are having a very diverse background and a lot of experiences which normally people who are living in one place does not have. So how would you comment on that?
I think my greatest strength or blessing has been that I have lived in the East and in the West as an adult. So my filter, whenever I write something, cannot be devoid of just geographically sticking to issues and isms within one boundary. I have been able to look at issues, isms, address stories and basic elemental nature of human beings from across the globe, putting it into perspective, making those comparisons, and then writing about them. So it's been a very universal perspective. And especially now that I think in Canada, our profile of immigrants has vastly changed after 1991, when we are getting a new cohort of people who are university educated, English speaking, professionally agile, socially connected internationally. So when they enter any country, not just Canada, the expectations from their adopted country are very different from, let's say, what Canada was used to seeing earlier. So I think this story is about one such family who didn't choose Canada because they were fleeing war or persecution or any religious problem, but they chose Canada for personal freedom. And one of the things I brought out in the book is the difference of privilege and life in the East and the West and how that changes. So in the East, there are still class, caste, those kind of things in order to define your privilege. In the West, the concept of privilege becomes more equalizing. So whereas in both places, East and West, you have happiness and freedom as your outcome, in the East, you need a lot of little buffers under that. You need to, where are you living? What kind of car do you drive? What social status? Who do you know? Here you come and it's a completely leveling society based on your profession. What do you do? What can you do? Yes, there are major challenges here too, structural, racial, what have you. But it's not so parochial in terms of privilege. So for the protagonist, Maya, she found her privilege in the West by renunciating all that defined privilege in the East. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Definitely. It happens, and this is what most of the people experience, that we find similarities to start our walk, and then we come to the point where we realize our differences.
Yes.
But that does not mean that we start comparing banana with a guava. Banana is banana with nutritions, and guava is guava with all nutritions.
True.
And they both have their beauties
Yes.
and their sidekicks,
Yes,
right?
of course.
So let's come back to your novel. When we talk about different generations, how do you think this novel is going to affect which kind of audience, and what is the best audience for that?
See, I had a little problem in that, because when I wrote the novel, like I said, it just flowed out of me, and then I backtracked to see where it would fit, and then I had all these questions from a lot of people, including, some of the requirements of the bookshops and publishers saying, okay, which genre is it, which box is it going to, which shelf is it going to fit in a bookshop, for example. And so so it has a bit of everything. It has adventure, it has romance, it has immigration, it has a little bit of paranormal, it has a little bit of intrigue of magic that percolates on the fringes that I brought into the book. It has mystery, it has murder. So it's a genre bending thriller. As far as your question about who is it for, I thought it was mainly a women's fiction novel, but I have, even on the cover, if you see, there are men who have given me raving reviews. So it also, the canvas is so wide because it goes into India-Pakistan partition, then it comes to India middle-class morality these days, presently, materialism, then it comes to North America, Canada, and it talks about our current immigration profile and status, and then from generations it has a grandmother's story, then the protagonist's story, and then her daughter's story. So there are 3 generations in it. So it's like a saga more than, that's what I can say.
That is the beauty of a novel, when it has the connection to all the different generations equally. They find something or another to relate to themselves. Yeah. That is the beauty of an artist, that how beautifully they have done that tremendous job. So let's talk about, you have got the invitation from India also, Jaipur Festival, for this book, and this book was sold so quick that it was out of shelf. So isn't it, how do you feel, and isn't it a very, very success story of yours? How do you see it?
I'm so humbled, surprised, grateful, thrilled. Those are the first words that come. I really had no clue that this would happen. It's my first novel, right? And I wrote it from my heart, and my heart guided it, not my brain. So I was surprised, but yeah, now it's going to be online, and now the copies are getting printed, and I will have them with me. So I have one copy now, and that's my only copy. So I am just so grateful. That's all I can say. And for an immigrant, for anyone who moves countries, who comes into another country, we have a treasure chest of stories in our hearts. And when we let them out, we don't know how they'll fall, where they'll go, right? All of us. So to get this kind of response, oh my God, I am so grateful.
So before we continue anything else, I would like you to share a couple of sentences from your novel to our audience, please.
Sure. So this book is into 3 parts. The first part is in India, and the second and third part are in Canada. The first part is called Vinaigrettes of Fate. The second is called Peacock in the Snow, and the third is called Forever Life. And this is a story about a young girl called Maya across continents and generations, and her absolute insatiable curiosity and her audacity to challenge a safe but subjugated life. So she was able to redefine it because of her courage. And she moves from India to Canada because she is trying to flee something that she's scared of. The message in the book is that you cannot run from your problems. The only way that you can overcome them is when you face them. And her resilience is just remarkable. All of us have it, and it comes from one thing in life, and that is the imperfections of life. Because life is imperfect, we have resilience, and we have something so integral, which is hope. And I think that is the spirit of the book. So I'll read from the first part when she is, she's quite an imp. She's not supposed to do many things. And just because she's not supposed to do them, guess what? She does them. So this is a part when she has just got married into a joint family, and there is a huge mansion. There's a forbidden section, and she's not allowed to go there. And guess what? So I'm going to read it. It's chapter 10, and it's page 48. The crescent moon still peeked from under the dark clouds, but I knew it was time to go, as the first crack of crimson had already summoned the breaking of dawn. I slipped into an old pair of jeans and faded runners and grabbed a torch from my back pocket. Thankfully, the nauseating giddiness had not returned. The house was quiet as always. From the garden window, through the mist, I saw the outline of a crouched figure walking towards our bedroom. Or was it just my imagination? I knew that soon Sheila would be back to check on me. I had a nagging suspicion that she had already guessed my plan. But I wouldn't allow anyone to spoil what I was setting out to do, not even Sheila. So instead, I snuck out of the dressing room back door. It opened into a cobble alley near the servant quarters. I followed it to the lawn, climbed over the balcony, and finally reached the pantry. The rusty black iron key that I needed was hanging mutely among other loud kitchen cabinet keys. I swiftly removed it from the hook, inhaled deeply, and stepped out onto the dark path to explore the forbidden west wing of Veer's mansion.
So, forbidden areas, forbidden fruit, forbidden everything. So, it indeed is a beautiful passage you have read, but I'm sure there are so many details about before and after which people can read, and then they can tell better about it. But I hope that this interests people a lot. So what is going to be your next project? Are you thinking of doing something, or you're trying to take a break, or what? How would you define this period of time?
Well, immediately I am trying to keep my head up because there are a lot of post-launch activities. I have about 10 readings between now and December. Then I have to go to Jaipur Lit Fest, and there is a second launch for the book in Delhi, India, in January. But I've already started on my sequel for this, which is going to be, like I said, it's a story of 3 generations. So the sequel will start from the younger generation. And it is from the younger generation's point of view and how they filter Canada and the world. It's about how young people get embroiled in espionage and terrorism, and then it comes back to Canada. So the book also will be all over the world, but Canada will be its home. I'm also working on a series of short stories on 9 elemental human emotions that we have. So all of us have, in our mythology, we had those 9 navras, which are, I think the world, if we define it, can fit within those 9 navras. So I'm writing a short story, one on each emotion, and how it plays out with different characters in ordinary life and people.
So would you like to give a message to our audience? What would be your message to them? And especially for the writers or those who are trying to pick a pen and are thinking, should they or shouldn't they?
Absolutely, you should. I think the only stamp we have on this world is if we produce and create something and leave it behind. I think the message I have is always believe in your interpretation of the world. There is no right, there is no wrong anymore. There is only honesty and truth in what you're saying. So never be afraid of saying it. The medium will come to you. Writing is just one medium. Your concept, the integrity of your story is larger than the one medium. You can do it through painting, you can do it through art, you can do it through music, dance. The medium will come to you. And even if you feel that you're not in an English-speaking country and you have these stories, go ahead, write them. Because all those things can get edited. How I can contribute or how I really want to contribute, all the things that I had to learn the hard way as a first-time writer. I'm actually doing workshops right now with Toronto Public Library and a few more places where I've got a tip sheet of secrets, which I really don't mind giving to other people, like research that I've done, websites and mistakes that you shouldn't make, that nobody tells you. And then, so those things I'm imparting to them. I'm not doing workshops on how to write because that they can get all over the place. But these other magical secrets and I have a website, I have a blog, a writer's blog, where we've started that conversation about looking at our challenges. As writers, people coming from all over the world, what are the challenges, structural, racial, even this, like you said, the writer's block, how to get over it, how are some strategies. What may work for me may not work for you. But if we look at strategic ways of dealing with our own problems in writing, that'll work. So we talk at a higher level for those things.
Thank you very much for being with us and sharing your views, your writings, and your concepts.
Thank you so much for having me. Wonderful to be here.
We have a lot of creative writers, artists. I say artists because it covers every aspect of the art. As we see that those who are sensitive towards society have a different concept of learning and observing things. When they share it, it actually contributes to all of us. While we are living in a society which is very complicated, everybody has their own journey, but they have learning process which can ease others. Writing is one expression of sharing those concepts and ideas which may help others. Peacock in the Snow is another edition, another work which is going to leave its marks. I would recommend you to go on your books, go on the website or go to the bookstore and search for that, because such people have a great contribution to our Canadian literature with a diverse background, with a diverse thought process. With these words, thank you very much for watching my show today.
It was my wedding day, and I was not ready, not mentally, not anyway. If only I could have run away, but I couldn't. So I took a deep breath, stepped forward to face my new life. had to get away, far away from the menacing darkness, to a new land of promise. As I packed, there it lay, the diary of secrets. I didn't want to carry the past with me, yet if I left it behind, she would be lost forever.